Albert Einstein, the oldest child of Hermann and Pauline Einstein-Koch, was born on the 14th of March, 1879, in Ulm, Germany. The Einstein marriage was harmonious, the family liberal and friendly. On his paternal side, the Einsteins were from a long line of Swabian craftsmen of the Jewish faith. Einstein's maternal grandfather was a purveyor of the court. In 1880, the Einstein family moved from Ulm to Munich. Hermann's brother was an engineer, and together, the Einstein brothers manufactured modern electrical devices, such as DC current generators and measuring instruments. In 1881, Albert's sister Maya was born. Albert entered Leopold High School in Munich in 1888. When his parents moved to Italy in 1894, first to Pavia, then to Milan, Albert remained behind in Munich, staying with relatives. In Munich, though, the rote, pedantic, and regimented learning at the high school sapped any pleasure that he, as a student, might have found in his studies. He dropped out of school and went to join his parents in Milan, where he went 9 months without school or teaching. At the age of 17, with his father's agreement, Einstein relinquished German nationality. He remained stateless for the next 5 years. When he sat, but did not pass, the entrance exam to the Zurich Polytechnic, today's Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich, he attended the cantonal school in Aarau for 1 year, from 1895 to 1896. In Aarau, he lived with the family of his teacher, Jost Winteler, one of whose sons later married Einstein's sister, Maya. At 17, Einstein also graduated from the Aarau Cantonal School. In October, he enrolled at the Zurich Polytechnic. His goal was to become a mathematics and physics teacher. In 1897, Einstein met Michele Besso. The two remained in close contact for the rest of their lives. It was with Besso with whom Einstein later discussed his revolutionary scientific ideas. Einstein also befriended fellow student Mileva Maric. He appreciated their discussions of questions on mathematics and physics. At the Polytechnic, Einstein's relationship with his lecturers was strained. He was happiest when working on his own. It prompted one lecturer to ask Einstein whether, instead of the difficult subject of physics, he wouldn't rather study something else. In 1899, still in Zurich, Einstein applied for Swiss nationality. Albert Einstein graduated from the Zurich Polytechnic in 1900 as a mathematics and physics teacher. He then unsuccessfully applied for a position as a teaching assistant at the Polytechnic and various other universities. In December, he submitted his first scientific work to the Annalen der Physik. In February 1901, Einstein was granted Swiss citizenship. He took a temporary teaching position in Winterthur and taught as well at a private school in Schaffhausen, as he continued unsuccessfully to apply for assistant teaching positions. In November, he submitted a thesis to Zurich University. In December, he applied for a position at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern, where he was hired in June 1902 on a probationary basis to start with, as an examiner 3rd class. In the meantime, Einstein had to earn a living. He placed an ad in the Anzeige der Stadt Bern, offering private physics and mathematics lessons. The Romanian student Maurice Solovin, in Bern studying philosophy, answered the ad. Some weeks later, the mathematician Konrad Habic joined the two. The trio dubbed their meetings, that sometimes lasted into the wee small hours, the Olympia Academy. The friendship begun would last throughout their lives. Earlier that year, in January, Lisa, the illegitimate daughter of Albert Einstein and his former fellow student Mileva Maric, had been born in Hungary. Einstein was in Bern at the time. He withdrew his thesis submitted to Zurich University. On the 6th of January 1903, Albert and Mileva married. That autumn, Lisa was possibly given up for adoption in Hungary. The next year, on the 14th of May 1904, Einstein's first son, Hans Albert, was born in Bern. Einstein was approved a permanent position at the Patent Office in September. 1905 became Einstein's annus mirabilis. He published 4 trailblazing works in the Annalen der Physik that revolutionized the principles of physics in the 1900s. On the electrodynamics of moving bodies is the first work on the special theory of relativity. The famous formula E equals mc squared came next. A work on the Brownian movement and the light quantum theory followed. Finally, Einstein submitted a thesis to Zurich University. It was accepted at the end of July. Mid-January 1906, Einstein received a doctorate from Zurich University. He was promoted to examiner second class at the Patent Office in Bern in April. 1907, Einstein discovered the equivalence principle as the basic idea leading to the general theory of relativity. His application, though, for university lecturer was rejected. He had failed to submit a postdoctoral thesis to Bern University. After submitting the required thesis, Einstein qualified at Bern University in 1908 and became an independent lecturer. He delivered his first lecture to an audience of 3. July 1909. Geneva University awarded Einstein his first honorary doctorate. He left the Swiss Patent Office. In October, he became a lecturer extraordinaire in theoretical physics at Zurich University. July 28, 1910. Einstein's second son, Edward, known as Tete, was born. 1911 saw Einstein working as an ordinary lecturer at Prague, German University. He calculated the deviation of light in the sun's gravitational field and recognized the experimental possibility of observing this during a total solar eclipse. In 1912, in Berlin, Einstein began a relationship with his divorced cousin, Elsa Lowenthal. On a call from his alma mater, Einstein returned to the Zurich Polytechnic in August to take on duties as an ordinary lecturer in theoretical physics. His return marked the start of cooperation with his former classmate Marcel Grossmann on work which was to become the basis for the general theory of relativity. Berlin University in 1913 offered Einstein membership to the Prussian Academy of Sciences. He was also offered a chair at the university without obligation to lecture, as well as head of the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Physics, which had yet to be created. Einstein accepted the offer on December 7th. In early April 1914, Einstein arrived in Berlin. His family soon joined him, but shortly thereafter he and his wife Mileva separated. Einstein traveled back to Zurich with his 2 sons in June. On July 2nd, Einstein delivered his inaugural speech before the Prussian Academy of Sciences. 1 month later, on the 1st of August 1914, the First World War broke out, and Einstein's deep involvement in politics began. In 1915, Einstein, working with J.W. de Haas, began experimental investigation in what became known as the Einstein-de Haas effect. He completed work on the general theory of relativity in November. The article, "The Foundation of the General Theory of Relativity," appeared in the Annalen der Physik on March 20th, 1916. 2 months later in May, Einstein succeeded Max Planck as the head of the German Physics Society. In December, Einstein finished work on his well-received book on the special and general theory of relativity, made generally understandable. He kept himself busy with the study of gravitational waves and again the quantum theory. But at the beginning of 1917, for Einstein, all was not well. He was suffering from assorted diseases. Though his cousin Elsa lovingly nursed him, it would be years before he was fully restored to good health. He wrote a work on cosmology, asserting a spatially limited universe, though he withdrew the work in 1931. On October 1st, 1917, he assumed leadership of the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Physics. August 1918. Einstein refused a joint offer from the Zurich Polytechnic and Zurich University. Valentine's Day, 1919. Albert Einstein and his wife, Mileva Maric, divorced. The solar eclipse, observed on the 29th of May 1919, confirmed Einstein's prediction of light deviation in the gravitational field of the Sun that he had postulated in his general theory of relativity. Einstein became famous overnight. The Albert Einstein myth was born. Second, Einstein married his cousin Elsa, who